Hello and welcome to the review. Now, today is going to be different than normal because I have two 4th edition products that I haven't gotten a chance to read. One is Madness at Guardmore Abbey, which is a super adventure for late heroic tier, and the other is Open Grave, Secrets of the Undead. Now, I haven't got a chance to read through them, so I can't review them. What I can review is Demon the Fallen for Old World of Darkness by White Wolf. Now, this book is, this game is a little bit much to take in. Mainly because the first 95 pages of this book are solely devoted to the history of angels and of time. So, that's a lot to take in. And then, grasp and then explain to your players. It's a bit, difficult sometimes. But it's very interesting. It's told from the perspective of 4 or 5 demons at each new chapter, at each new leg. And it's all fairly interesting at a certain point. Some points they get a little bit wordy and it's just really confusing because they're like, angels exist on a bajillion different planes of existence at any given time. So it's just, you're like, I only deal with one. Why do I need to have to know about your other 50,000 planes that do not exist for you anymore? So, but it's still interesting to read if you feel like it. But the 95 pages of lore do give you enough background to actually run your system. Now, once you finally get through all of that, which leads all the way up to the modern day, and then it has a little bit of a character in modern times playing, so it's fairly interesting. But once you get through that, you get to chapter 5, which details your what house you are, which in vampire it would be equivalent to the vampire clan or the werewolf sign. They're born on the full moon. They're essentially their class, for lack of a better term, is your house. Now, the first one is the Defiler, which are social. They were, I believe, they were the angels of. What were they? They were like the muses. They were the inspirers. Now they just defile. They're more oriented towards appearance and social, and and they inspire. That's their role. Now, each house also has access to a lore. Well, 3 of them, 5 of them technically. 3 of them are specialized, and each house also has a common 2. Now, what the lores are, you would put dots in them, and each one can be ranked from a 1 to a 5, with each, corresponding ability at each dot. And there is 23 lores in total. So 2 common, and then the other 21 are spread amongst the different houses, which I believe there are actually 7 houses. So, 3 lores per house, and they're specialized. Now, I believe you can go outside of your lore, but much like in Werewolf or in other White Wolf products, if you take something that is not based from what you're allotted normally, it costs more. So, the house for the lore for the defilers is longing, storms, and transfiguration, and then the 2 common ones are fundamental and humanity. Next one are the devils. They're your talkers. They're your liars, deceivers, and they are actually members of, I believe it was the first house, which were the house that the Morning Star, Lucifer, was from. So they're not. Just because they are talkers does not mean they cannot be warriors as well. During the fall and the war with heaven, they were actually the knights of Hell's legions. So they're pretty interesting. Their lores are Celestial, Flame, and Radiance, as they were the first house, which was the House of Dawn, I believe is one of their other names for them. Can't remember. Next up is the Devourers. They were the House of the Wild. They Can't remember what rank they were. But they're essentially the soldiers. They were the shock troopers, the common foot soldier for Hell's Legions. And they've carried that to now where they, you know, they're the combat heavy ones. Their lore is beast, flesh, and wild. Now each of these also has these entries have entries for what factions they might belong to, which I'll get to later. Ideas for preludes and who they might possess. Faith and what each type would do depending on their faith. Faith is like your blood pool from werewolf or your gnosis from blood pool from vampire and gnosis from werewolf. So they're a renewable source, but they're also used for power and everything like that. And then it's got their weaknesses and everything. Next up are the fiends, who are your intelligence. They're your information gatherers, your spies, things like that. Their lore is light, pattern, and portals. Then you have the malefactor, which are also they're the quick thinkers. They're the con artist type people. And their lore is earth, forge, and paths. Next up is the scourge, which they're not really the most social at all. They tend to be I don't really exactly can't grasp them. They at one point they I'm trying to figure out how to explain them best because they just you know what they were the guardian angels is what they were before. Now I guess they don't do that. I mean, it's really hard to try and get make this all make sense because it is a very dense book, a dense system, and it's very hard to get around in this one because it's so wrapped in flavor text and lore, unlike werewolf and vampire where it's just like, oh, this is what this is. This one's got the thing that it actually is a hidden deep within everything. But they were the guardian angels, and now they aren't. They obviously they were also warriors. Guess you could. They were the tough ones, really, is what they were. They were bodyguards. Sorry, that's the easiest way to put it. Their lore is wind, awakening, and firmament. And then the last one is the Slayer, which is actually not the warriors. The Slayers were the angels of death. Now they have to suffer with everyone, dying, and they can't do anything about it. They have to reap their souls. They're essentially the Grim Reapers. And they're kind of your mental is common, but they're more your generalized, fairly well balanced, because they're neither heavy warrior class, they're neither social, mental. I mean, they can be whatever. The common one I think is mental, but their lore is death, realms, and spirit. Now, to tack on to make your character more unique is you may belong to a different house, but after the fall, when the fallen lost and the fallen angels were cast into hell, eventually factions begin to form. So now that you've broken out, you still might have ties to your faction. So your faction, you have to pick between the Faustians, which this faction is, they see humanity for what it is, and instead of wanting to save it like they used to, they believe that what will be better for them, for the humans and for the demons, would be if they just enslave them with their powers. So that's their goal now, is just to kind of figure out the best way to take power and use their powers to rule over humans by any means necessary. So, friendly guys. The next faction is the Cryptics. Now, the Cryptics, what they want to, they're the ones who try and study, they want to know why they were trapped. They want to know how to get out. Get more out. They want to know where Lucifer is, because that's also another part of it. Is Lucifer was not thrown into hell with him. They don't know where he is, but he's just gone. So the cryptics kind of are the thinkers, the philosopher types for the demons. The next up is the Luciferians, who, as their name implies, are still loyal to Lucifer. And when they get out of hell, what they want to do is they want to find Lucifer. They still want to fight this war against God. They're determined to, and they want their leader back. So they're hunting down Lucifer, trying to find him so that, he can lead them into combat again. The next ones are the Raveners, which, like the Faustians, see humans for what they are, but instead of wanting to rule them, the Raveners feel scorned by the humans for not remembering them, and they want to just kill them in bloodlust. So the Raveners are the more vicious and brutal type. And the final faction are the Reconcilers, who believe that there might be a chance still to return to God as an angel. They realize that rebelling against him may not have been the best idea. So they're seeking a way to try and, figure out a way to get back in God's good graces. And once you put all that together, it goes back to a more standard form of a World of Darkness game. You have your concept, demeanor, blah blah blah. Something to note though, when you make a demon character, you're supposed to pick 3 names. 1 is the name you're currently possessed. 2 is your celestial name, and 3 you don't actually have to pick, but you do have, is your true name, which is supposed to be fairly long, and if someone has it, they can have power over you. So it's pretty cool. And that that's the one thing no one ever wants to share, is what their true name actually is, because if they have it, it makes them easier to control, easier to find, easier to hunt and kill. So, with someone knowing your true name, it can end very badly for you. So, what also they have in the system is, like I mentioned before, is your faith. Your faith is your expendable power source. You use your faith to activate most of your abilities, and which come from your lores or your apocalyptic form, which I'll get to in a moment. But your faith can be regained in 2 ways. One, because you have it, and you spend your faith points or whatever to raise your faith level. But after you've expended your faith, the only way to regain it is through 2 ways. One, you can reap, which means that you have to somehow get a human to believe that what you are is actually a celestial being, which, by means of torturing them and skinning them alive as a evil demon, or, saving them in a time of need. So it's a quick fix type thing, but it gives you, I believe, a couple of faith points. The other way is, what you can do is make a pact with someone, a deal that you can, pull faith from them. That's the preferred way, but it takes a lot longer and could endanger you if said person decides to betray you. So, those are the type of things that you can do to regain your faith. Now, the other thing in this system is torment. And torment measures your how good or evil you are, how much you have your humanity versus how demonic you actually are. So, a person with low torment would be fairly good, a person I think with its 3 or less torment can actually walk on holy ground. Whereas if you have 4 or more, you take severe damage for walking on holy ground or being faced with a holy object. And if you actually get up to 10 permanent well, there is no non-permanent. But yeah, there is. There's temporary. If you get 10 temporary torment, you get 1 permanent, and then it recounts. And if you get up to 10 permanent, 10 permanent torment, your character, you lose control of your character pretty much, as you are so far gone into demonicness that you really aren't playable. Another thing is your apocalyptic form. Now, when you pick your lore, when you're assigning your points for your lore, you get to pick what is your primary lore. And your primary lore gives you access to that lore's apocalyptic form, which is essentially the shadow of your old angelic self. So, let me find one and I'll show you, and I'll read it. We have Dagon, the Visage of Awakening. And you get four abilities based on your from just having it. For this one, you have the Aura of Vitality. Living beings, plants, or animals with a number of cards equal to your faith are infused with restorative energy. Individuals within this area heal any bash damage at the rate of 1 heal health per turn. Pass without a trace, improve physical capabilities, and wings. And then if you are actually... There is an advantage to also being a slightly high torment demon, is you get access to the high torment powers, which on the one hand are better, but at the same time you can suffer from it. Like I said, holy objects, stuff like that. For example, you get extra limbs. Is one of them. The demon grows a second set of arms or a prehensile tail at the player's discretion. Extra arms allow a character to parry or block hand-to-hand or melee weapons without sacrificing her own attack, or make up 2 additional attacks of her own per turn, in which all of which are considered multiple actions. A prehensile tail is half the character's height. It uses only half the character's strength, rounding down to lift objects and allow the character to hang suspended. So that's just one of them. There's four high torment powers that you can pick. So, there's an advantage and a disadvantage to being a high torment demon. Now, and like I said, there's 5 dots for all 23 lore. So you could have very, very different characters for just about everything else. And there's one more thing. Where is it? Virtues. There's also 3 virtues you can pick to have: conscience, conviction, and courage. And each one goes into, how things work. Like conviction. This is really... I think they all go into, your faith score and things like that. So, your conviction helps you with how strong you are in your belief of what you've done, what you're fallen. Your conscience is your ability to tell right and wrong, and it'll help you if you're about to gain torment. And then there's courage, which will help you overcome fear effects. So, honestly, through and through this book, it's a fairly interesting read. It's fairly cool. This would be a pain in the ass to run, I think, for a new player, for a new DM with new players. I think it'd be easier if it was... I think this would be one of the harder ones to do without an experienced group. This book also goes over, storytelling and some adventure ideas and your antagonists and how they work, and also how priests are able to expel you from your body and everything. So it's pretty cool. Honestly, I think it's a fairly good game. I think it'd be fairly fun to play. I think it'd be hard. It would be one of the harder ones to run, like I said. But this book's actually now fairly expensive to get on Amazon, I think, still. But if you can find it for cheap like I did, I think I picked mine up for like $20. I think it's well worth it, especially because it's got a lot of ideas. If you wanted characters, say you're playing Hunter and you wanted a demon or, anything else. So I recommend it. And until next time, have a good one.